Hello and welcome. This is Justin Derby of Wildcat Spread 40, bringing you the Week 4 predictions for the Northwest Conference. And for our first matchup of the day, we have Whittier versus Puget Sound. Whittier played only one game so far in 2012, which was a close 47-42 loss to Whitworth, while Puget Sound is 0-2 and just not looking very good right now. Whittier against Whitworth, even though they lost, it was a very close loss where they showed a lot of offensive explosiveness as they put up 42 points and 517 yards of offense against Whitworth's defense, which is considered to be fairly stout, averaging 9 yards per play against the Whitworth Pirates. Meanwhile, Puget Sound is coming off 2 losses where their defense has just, quite frankly, been embarrassed beyond belief. And despite putting up some impressive passing numbers, Puget Sound just does not look like a very strong program at all once again in 2012. So, because of those reasons, I have Whittier winning against Puget Sound. Next up on the list, got Chapman playing against Whitworth. Chapman's one win and game played of the season was a win over Puget Sound, so that doesn't really say anything about them. The fact that it was a semi-competitive game for Puget Sound probably means they aren't that good. Meanwhile, Whitworth is 3-0 on the season, and they've been putting up some impressive numbers on offense. Like I said earlier in the season, they have the best set of skill players in the conference besides Linfield, so I would expect Chapman's defense to get lit up in this game, and because of that, I will pick Whitworth to win. Next on the agenda, we have an interesting matchup between Pacific Oregon and Willamette. Willamette has been the surprise team of the season thus far in the Northwest Conference, as they lead the Northwest Conference in scoring, total offense, passing, and basically every offensive statistic there is except for rushing yards per game. But not by much. And even though their defense is in the bottom of the conference in most areas, they do lead their conference in rushing defense and turnovers forced, 11 forced turnovers in 2 games. And the reason for Willamette's revitalized offensive attack is new quarterback Josh Dean, who in 2 games has completed 66% of his passes for 774 yards of 10 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. His quarterback rating of 171.9 leads the conference, and it's just probably been one of the biggest surprises of the entire nation in Division III thus far in 2012. Pacific is coming off a surprising 27-6 win over Occidental, who traditionally had been one of the stronger programs of the country in Division III for the past 4 to 5 years. So while that says a lot about Pacific's growth as a team in the last couple seasons, I don't think they'll have the defense to play anything close to what they did against Occidental against Willamette. So because of that, I'm taking Willamette to beat Pacific. And since Linfield has a bye week this week, I now bring to you the game of the week, in my opinion, for the Northwest Conference in Week 4 of the season. Matchup between McAlester and Lewis and Clark. McAlester is 3-0, looking absolutely dominant in their 3 games thus far, averaging 40 points a game on offense, and their defensive numbers are simply astonishing, giving up only 8.3 points per game and just over 200 yards of offense. Unfortunately, all 3 of McAlester's opponents have traditionally in the last 5 years been absolutely horrible, so we don't really know anything about how good they actually are. Lewis and Clark is coming off a magical season in 2011, and after 2 games are 2-0 and looking like a decent team once again. Lewis and Clark's offense has seen a dramatic drop in production this year. They're scoring about 29 points a game, which is 4th in the conference, and they're averaging about 363 yards of offense per game, which is dead last in the Northwest Conference as of right now. However, Keith Welch has been sensational again in 2012, mostly as a thrower this year though. His throwing efficiency after 2 games is completing about 59% of his passes, averaging 227 yards a game through the air, has 4 touchdown passes with no interceptions after 2 games. and is also the team's leading rusher, which is not saying much because he only has about 115 yards and a couple touchdowns on the season. The main reason they had a big drop in offense is the big drop in their running game, which may or may not get better as the season goes on. However, the real reason Lewis and Clark is 2-0 thus far is their resurgent defense. Now, I know before you get all mad or say I'm just telling you a joke or whatever, Lewis and Clark's defense has been very improved this season, and so much so that statistically, as of right now, they are the #1 defense in the Northwest Conference in terms of points per game allowed and yards per game allowed, and they're tied for second in turnovers forced with Linfield. Lewis and Clark's defense is so improved from last year. Combine that with the fact that McAlester hasn't really played anyone yet, and that Lewis and Clark has Keith Welch at quarterback, one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the country. I'm picking Lewis and Clark to beat McAlester this week. This is Justin Derby of Wildcat Spread 40, and these have been the Week 4 predictions for the Northwest Conference.